All right, folks, today we are diving into a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing where some of our elected officials talk about firearms in ways that make you wonder if they've ever actually handled one. From calling bump stocks enhancements to being astounded that Americans can have an individual right to own guns, these statements are more than just out of touch. They're dangerous. But don't worry, I'm here to break down what they're saying, what's actually true, and why this conversation matters to every gun owner and every American who values their rights. We've got a lot to unpack here, so grab your popcorn, maybe even a drink, and let's get into it.
Majority minority witnesses said they agree that this nation is awash in guns. And Mr. Ludwig, you mentioned that we have over 400 million guns and 330 million Americans. So we are awash in guns. I mean, is there anybody on this panel who does not think that we are awash in guns in this country? Raise your hand if you think otherwise. Okay, so we are awash in guns.
Ma'am, yes, we are awash with guns in this country. But that's by design. That's not some unexpected twist in America's story. It's exactly what the founders intended. If you've got a nation with over 300 million people and the founders made sure we'd have a constitution that protects our right to defend ourselves, you bet they expected and wanted there to be plenty of firearms around. Why? Because they knew that a free people need the means to protect themselves, not just from common criminals, but from potential tyranny. That's literally the whole point of the Second Amendment. So sitting here trying to make it sound like the presence of firearms is inherently a bad thing is frankly missing the point. Guns aren't the villains here. Guns don't have little gremlin-like personalities lying in wait to cause chaos as soon as nobody's looking. Guns aren't causing anything. They don't get fed after midnight and then suddenly go rogue. What we're really facing is a people problem. Bad actors will always exist, and that's exactly why good people need to be able to protect themselves. Guns are tools. It's the misuse of those tools by people with bad intentions that's the issue. And the answer isn't to demonize the tools, it's to address the behaviors and the factors driving them. This isn't complicated logic. It's just common sense.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court in various decisions, Heller was pretty much an astounding decision to me when suddenly individuals could, the Second Amendment, individuals could own firearms, but Scalia did say that we could legislate various kinds of limitations, I suppose, that you could.
Can someone explain to me how a government official in a country with the Second Amendment finds it astounding that our Supreme Court ruled individuals have a right to own firearms? Are we really surprised by this? Did they think the Second Amendment was just a punchline, some long-standing prank, or maybe that it got slipped into the Constitution by a sneaky outsider? This amazement at a ruling affirming individual rights shows just how far removed they are from the actual intent of the Constitution. Because what's the alternative here? If we don't have an individual right to bear arms, that leaves only one group in the country with guns, the government. Oh, that's right. Who's part of that government? You. Yeah. So maybe that's why the ruling seems so baffling to her, or astounding. She seems to love that word for some reason.
That, and then you fast forward to the Bruen decision, where suddenly we're supposed to look to what the founding fathers thought about in, 1791, or some astounding time frame such as that. Bruen has led to some unintended consequences, by the way.
Ma'am, the only unintended consequence of the Bruen decision were that it finally stopped states from rigging concealed carry permit processes to make it practically impossible for ordinary people to get a license. For years, states like New York set up these so-called permit processes that look fair on paper, but were really just hoops designed to keep regular citizens from carrying. The Bruen decision said enough. If you're gonna have a permitting process, it has to be accessible and fair, not a bureaucratic nightmare that only the elite or those in the government can navigate.
Here we sit, debating about whether or not we should put some limits on these kinds of enhanced weapons. My staff person just showed me a video of how fast these enhanced weapons shoot, and I can understand why. In the Las Vegas situation, so many people were killed. Astounding, horrifying. And just listening to the firepower of these weapons, one questions whether or not these should be illegal at all, and we should not be sitting here talking about whether ATF can regulate these firearms or whether it is somehow left to Congress. Hey, good luck with that.
This right here is what happens when you give people a little bit of information and suddenly they think they're experts. Watching a video of how fast a gun can shoot doesn't make you a subject matter expert on firearms, yet here you are, trying to pass legislation about something you clearly don't understand. A bump stock isn't some magic enhancement that turns a gun into a super weapon. It's literally just a piece of plastic that modifies the way a gun can be fired. It doesn't make the gun more lethal in any technical sense. And last I checked, a firearm's purpose is to be lethal when needed to defend oneself. Trying to make guns less lethal makes zero sense, especially when the good guys need them to be effective in protecting themselves. And this idea that the less lethal a gun is, the safer everyone will be, is dangerously flawed. You make it harder for good people to defend themselves, not easier. In the case of the Las Vegas shooting, the shooter's lethality wasn't due to a bump stock. It was because he had an overwatch position over hundreds of people in a confined area. He could have done the same level of damage with a standard AR-15 without any modification. In fact, a lot of people could argue that the bump stock actually make the weapon less accurate and harder to control. But I'm not even gonna get lost in the technical weeds here. The bottom line is this: guns are lethal tools. That's their purpose. And in the right hands, they protect lives.
So gun manufacturers are immune from the consequences of people using their products. So, Mr. Ludwig, is there a possibility that gun manufacturers is making them liable? Is that an approach that we should consider?
Why do they keep getting away with this lie? I've debunked this so many times, it's exhausting. Gun manufacturers do not have immunity from all consequences related to their products. They're protected from frivolous lawsuits that attempt to blame them just because someone used a firearm in a crime. That's the immunity they have. Protection from politically motivated lawsuits aimed at bankrupting gun companies by holding them accountable for the actions of people they have no control over. If a gun manufacturer produces a defective gun that injures someone because of negligence, you can absolutely sue them. This isn't some blanket immunity that lets them dodge all responsibility. It's simply protection against baseless lawsuits aimed at tearing down the gun industry by suing them for actions they didn't commit. We don't do this for any other industry. If someone crashes a car because they were drunk, we don't turn around and hold the car manufacturer responsible. But somehow they think it's reasonable to hold a gun manufacturer liable because someone misused their product. Yet here we are again with this same false claim being repeated over and over and over again. They're banking on people not knowing the actual facts to push their agenda. It's frustrating to see this misinformation continue unchecked, but I'll keep calling it out every single time.
I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't want to speak to the legality of that. I think what I would, as an economist and a social scientist, I would talk about the larger data and evidence about the effects of product regulation. And I think we have lots of examples from other products like motor vehicles where changing product designs have led to massive improvements in safety, whether that's through litigation approaches or regulation approaches. We can see that when products become safer, products that are prone to misuse.
Pay close attention here. These folks are crafty with their language. What he's really saying is that he doesn't want to touch the issue of holding gun manufacturers liable, and there's a reason for that. He knows there's already a federal law called PLACA that prevents these kind of lawsuits from being weaponized against the gun industry. So instead, he tries to take a backdoor approach by suggesting that firearms, because they're prone to misuse, should be regulated for safety improvements, just like cars. But here's the problem with that logic. The only way to stop someone intent on misusing a gun is to remove it entirely. Making firearms safer to prevent crime, that's not about safety, it's about control. Sure, they could argue for things like electronic locks or fingerprint activation, but here's the deal. I don't want my gun relying on electronics that could fail in a crisis. The whole point of the firearm is reliability, especially in a self-defense situation. The last thing I want is for my safety to depend on whether some sensor decides to work when I need it most. And let's be real, the tech for all this smart gun talk isn't there yet. It's there technically, but not efficient enough for me to put my life independence on it. Ain't doing it. But they don't care about that. They'd happily make us the guinea pigs because it gives them control. If someone wants to put an electronic safety feature on the market, go ahead. Let the free market decide if it's effective, but don't mandate all of us to use untested tech as our only option to protect ourselves. I'll pass, thank you, but no thanks. Now, here's the deal. Trump won the White House, Republicans have the Senate, Republicans have the House. So at this point, we need to be relentless in growing the gun club. And by gun club, I mean the anti-2A club. At the end of the day, members of Congress are still beholden to their constituents. But to get them to listen, we need enough people making noise for our side. And that means bringing more people into the anti-2A club. How do we do that? We take people out shooting, we have real conversations, we share facts, information, data, and yes, we share videos like this one. And little by little, person by person, we grow our numbers. With that, we start to see a cultural shift where more people understand the importance of the Second Amendment and why it's essential to protect it. And that shift puts real pressure on Congress to follow what the people want. So, if you're ready to join the club, you can see here on my chest, yeah, we also got it on the back, got it on the hat. So, if you're ready to join the anti-2A club, or you're already part of the club and you just need the merch to demonstrate to the world that you are part of this club, head over to shop.mrcolionnoir.com or hit the link in the description section of this video. As I pointed out, we got them in hats, we got them in drinkware, we have them in shirts, you name it. So head over to the link, click the link, go over there and grab what you need. I almost forgot. So for those of you who don't like to hear ringing in your ears as you get older, or if you already have it now, you want to make it not get louder, when you go out to shoot, yeah, go ahead and grab you a pair of these as well, because these bad boys right here are my favorite in-ear hearing protection when I go to the range. A lot of it has to do with the abundant amount of features that are on this damn thing. You got the fact that it has a 25 dB rating, but it also has active noise blocking, while also giving you the awareness you need to hear what's going on around you, while actively blocking the loud sounds that destroy your hearing. But then it also has Bluetooth, which allows you to listen to music while you're at the range and also take phone calls. I'm telling you, this thing is just, chef's kiss. I love this product, I really do. I beta tested it for years. But head over to the link in the description section and go ahead and check out the AKT1 Blackouts as well. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you, and we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.